The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me, as always, co-host extraordinaire, Jeff to my Goldblum, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how you doing, buddy?
I am quite confused.
That's an appropriate reaction to the week you've had. Tell the folks at home, what's got you so befuddled?
We have been listening to 21 Pilots' major label debut, Vessel, released January 8th, 2013. And I have to say, this has been one of our most suggested bands. You have been suggesting this for approximately 64 weeks now.
Roughly,
and
yes.
I definitely see why, but we've also had suggestions from somebody named Brennan, who wouldn't give us his last name, Melanie Buchem, Annette Barr, and Richard, possibly Davis Fowler. People really want to hear this, and I kinda get it.
Kinda get it. That's an appropriate place to start. Before we go any further, let me ask the question we like to ask at the top of the show. Tim, do you hate this album?
I don't know yet.
Wow.
Garrett, did you hate this?
I'm going to go and say no for now. Are there aspects of it I hate? You betcha. Do I like it? No, but I don't think I hate it. With that out of the way, I have to ask, is this the first time your 21 has been pilots?
Terrible. Just embarrassingly bad. I actually had no idea what to expect with this band. I've probably heard some of their later songs or overheard some of their later songs on the radio. For some reason, I thought they were a folky, like indie rock band. Like I was expecting like a Blitzen Trapper or something to that effect. What about you? Have your pilots been 21'd?
Only briefly. I've heard some of Blurry Face, Amazon, based upon my musical choices prior to the show. Thought, hey, you like these bands, you'd like 21 Pilots. Oh, Tim, you'll be able to relate to this. It's the Imagine Dragons thing. I got Imagine Dragons this week. Amazon was like, oh, you're going to love this. Indie rock band. You're super into that, right? Here you go. No, it's 21 Pilots. And I'm not sure what it is, but it's not music I like. And we're going to have to figure out why. But before we can do that, Tim, we have to understand the band itself. Take us back in time. Tell us the story of 21 Pilots.
21 Pilots is a musical duo from Columbus, Ohio, currently composed of Tyler Joseph on vocals, piano, keyboard, synth, ukulele, bass, and guitar, and Josh Dunn on drums. They kind of got their start when Tyler Joseph, or Ty Joe as he is known by friends and family, met...
Stop.
What?
Right now. Does anyone call him that?
Absolutely.
Does anyone but you call him that?
Unclear. Anyway, so Ty Joe met Nick Thomas, who is no longer in the band, in a youth basketball league in Ohio. Ty Joe at some point in there found a keyboard in his closet and started playing along to the radio. Importantly here, he is super Christian throughout childhood. He's homeschooled early on. His dad's a basketball coach, and he was forced to listen to a lot of Christian music growing up, including future Why I Hate This Album alumni DC Talk, a Christian rapist group.
What?
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
What's the DC stand for?
District of Columbia?
Disciples of Christ?
Probably that.
Jesus Christ. I want to do it now. Can we just stop this and just not put out an episode for a week and just go listen to your weird thing? No, we did the hard part. Let's do the fun part.
Ty Joe makes a solo album called No Fun Intended.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and Nick did a little bit of guitar work on that.
Okay.
So Ty Joe got a basketball scholarship to kind of a small college, but he ended up turning that down to go to The Ohio State University, where he met Chris Sala, I guess is how you say his name. Sala had built a studio in his house, and Ty Joe started playing there. Then he invited Nicholas to come play bass with him. Eventually, they started playing at clubs around Columbus, and Ty Joe's mother, being the ever supportive woman that she was, would stand out on street corners of the Ohio State University, giving away tickets to a show and asking people to come see her boy.
Wow, that's mothering.
Yeah. They eventually named themselves 21 Pilots and self-released their first album, 21 Pilots, in 2009. According to the band, 21 Pilots' purpose for making music is to make people think as well as encourage them to find joy in what they come to believe in life. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, he lost me.
He does that a lot. I think that's going to be a running theme throughout this episode. Taijo came up with the band's name while reading All My Sons by Arthur Miller. It was a play about a man whose decision to send out shitty airplane parts so his business would do well caused the death of 21 pilots during World War II. I'll give it this. It's better than Nickelback.
You know what? That's a great compliment. It is better than Nickelback.
Around this time, Josh Dunn joins as the drummer, and they started posting songs on SoundCloud. Salo left for work, and Nick left for school, which leaves Taijo and Josh Dunn alone as the only actual full-time members. Nick eventually came back and became their merchandise guy, which is humbling. Sala works for a carpentry company now.
Tough break. We could be looking at a real Caleb situation where not only does he kick him out of the band, but then the lead singer's like, yeah, but you can come follow us around as our roadie. If I could pay you $300,000 a year, but you are my roadie, would you quit your job and be my roadie?
No, God no, Garrett.
Why?
Because I have a good job and I do not like being in situations in which you feel yourself to be in charge of me.
I am in charge of you.
You are not in charge of me.
In life.
No.
Yeah.
I make my own decisions, Garrett. I feel as though I make my own decisions.
All right, that's a great compromise. Anyway.
So their second album, Regional at Best, was released in 2011, and then they did a free album release show at a high school for some reason. That was unclear to me.
How do you coordinate that? How do you...
I feel like you just go to the high school and start playing. See what happens.
No. Okay. Little show advice real quick. Don't just show up at a high school and start doing stuff. There's a process. You need to go sign in at the office. They need to issue you a sticker, and you need to have that sticker prominently displayed. You can't just cruise into a high school and play a rock show. This isn't 1989.
Yeah, I like a good lanyard with a guest pass. That makes me feel like I'm not going to get arrested.
Okay. What are you talking about?
Whenever I go to high schools to promote the podcast, I will often request some sort of guest pass, which I can display prominently so that I am not arrested
Confused
immediately.
for a pedophile.
Well,
It just says not a pedophile on it.
Yeah, pedophile status unknown, presuming
That's green.
not.
Or maybe red. Maybe you want to wear a red badge. That means pedophile no.
I'm not sure. I think red has a very danger kind of...
Yeah. Also, why would you make a badge that said pedophile yes? Don't make a badge for pedophiles to visit your school. Just make a policy that you probably just need the one badge. And if you have that badge, you're not a pedophile. Otherwise.
Presumed pedophile, yeah.
Yeah.
After that, they play Newport Music Hall and they catch the interest of record labels. In 2012, they signed to Fueled by Ramen, which is an Atlantic Record subsidiary, and they release an EP called 3 Songs.
Okay.
Their third album, Vessel, the album of the week, was released January 2013. It included 5 songs from Regional at Best, and then they went on to open for Fall Out Boy on their Save Rock and Roll tour. They end up playing at South by Southwest, and then they hit the Summer Music Festival circuit, performing in weird gimp masks. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay. They've got I don't think they're necessarily gimp masks. They're like a wool mask with
like a ski mask. Like Pussy Riot.
Yeah, exactly. They're wearing balaclavas. I feel like the mouth might be zippered shut. I can't prove it, but I think it is.
Well, that seems antithetical to singing properly.
2015, their next album, Blurry Face, was released, and it did quite well. It hit number 1 on the Billboard 200. In 2018, Blurry Face became the very first album in history to have every single track receive at least gold certification from the RIAA. That means 500,000 plus someones out there have downloaded every single song individually on that album.
Why?
I don't know.
Or purchase singles. Is that a thing? Are CD singles real anymore?
C-dingles? Sure.
Well done. C-dingles.
On the Blurry Face tour, they toured Europe, Australia, Asia, and all of North America, and it finally earned them a spot on that coveted Suicide Squad soundtrack in 2016.
Yeah, it did.
At this point, they're just a giant band. In 2018, they released their 5th album, Trench, which is where I will leave off because I don't care anymore.
If there was anything interesting to tell you guys about that happened after that date, we would get into it. So let's talk about this band and this album. What are your general thoughts? What's got you so confused?
This album is absolutely exhausting.
Why do you think so?
Well, I mean, just physically. Whenever I am done with this album, I am sweaty, I'm worn out, I need a nap, maybe a little something to eat.
What are you doing while you're listening to this?
I don't know. I'm sitting there at my desk listening to this album.
Motionless?
Yeah. It's an emotional roller coaster, Garrett.
He does seem to have a bit of an infatuation with death. What type of music is this?
I don't know.
Correct answer.
I read what the musical styles have been described as: alternative hip-hop, electropop, indie pop, pop rock, rap rock, alternative rock, reggae, rock, synth pop, emo rap, which is a new one, and indie-tronica. I would like to add Christian music to this. I think this is another kind of an electronic screamo situation. Vocally, he sounds a lot like Eminem. Or at least he's trying to sound like Eminem, because a lot of this seems like low-T Eminem.
Yes, and if anyone's confused, go listen to the Revival episode where we break down concretely why people are saying that Eminem is suffering from low T.
I dubbed this emo Eminem, and then I thought of Emonem, and then I thought you throw Christian in front of that, you got Christian emo Eminem or Cremonem.
Sounds like the worst hard candies some 80-year-old neighbor is forcing you. Have a candy, darling. I've never heard of these. They're cream and M's.
I don't want that.
I'm going to break my fucking teeth off. Yes, I tend to agree with everything you've said. It's about 50% rap, 33% pop, and the rest is electronic insanity. But that's just the music.
For sections, it sounds like Band of Horses to me.
Yeah, I haven't listened to them in a long time.
Yeah, you're right not to.
It's Mumfordy at parts and his sons.
I think the guys making this music are very talented. They're just using it for evil. You've got the beats, the electronica, the low-key Christianity. Just make a song. A single song that's not 4 songs.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Bohemian Rhapsody. That is 2 songs at least, right? Mm-hmm. Much like that, we get these bizarre shifts in the middle of many of these 4-minute songs, where at first it is emo, it is Ben Folds-esque.
Yes.
And then out comes the mandolin and the ukulele, and just when you think you might have figured this fucking band out a little bit, then they starts rapping like Eminem, and when that ends, you go into the next track. Now it sounds like a Big Data song. It's all bleeps and blorps, and he's singing to you like Scissor Sisters.
The drummer is really good.
Yes, when he gets the opportunity to make the drums.
Sure. The piano is frequently good.
Yes, I agree.
The use of metaphor, they're so meaningless that I feel like I need to mention it up front. He may as well be shouting, "Your body is a wonderland," at, from what I can tell, are terrifying brain demons he walks around with.
Don't spoil it, because the one that comes later in the album is so silly. Most of these songs are mighty upbeat, would you agree? Mm-hmm. Until you listen to the words being said. I found myself clawing for any other meaning than the very obvious ones that are contained within these songs. They're so sad and they're so depressing and they're so at odds with the music.
A lot of the lyrics are also very self-absorbed to an embarrassing level. The way to sum it up is this: they are a very good band that is intentionally playing bad music, and occasionally their natural talent sometimes shines through.
What do you mean intentionally playing bad music?
Well, the music they are trying to play, they are playing well, right? So they're...
let's say they are earnestly playing bad music.
Okay, sure. They're a good band earnestly playing bad music, and despite themselves, sometimes their natural talent shines through.
It's not a very long album. Because of the way the songs shift, both stylistically between song to song and within the songs themselves, it makes it all feel quite long, and it, to me, feels like one continuous song.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought I would enjoy this more.
Yeah.
Then let's not belabor it, Tim. Let's get into these songs. Track number 1, Ode to Sleep.
All of these songs, and this one in particular, they seem like extremely wordy versions of Imagine Dragons songs, but unlike the Dragons, they say nothing with so many words.
I will agree and disagree. There is a great deal of meaning intended in here. These are earnestly written lyrics. Tim, I think something we might have missed in the general thoughts is a lot of this album deals with someone who is obsessed with killing themselves.
Or at least with depression and mental illness.
Yes, with allusions to killing oneself.
Yes.
That's not what we're making fun of. We're making fun of the way this man articulates it and will not shut the fuck up about it in an album that is supposed to be enjoyable. Just want to clear that up front. Is this song a rap opera?
Yes. Full stop.
We got demons, Tim. First, we got to establish what kind of demons we're dealing with, obviously.
I think that his demons are God or possibly Jesus.
Maybe when he says, please tell him you have no plans for me, maybe he's saying, hey, God, tell the demons you have no plans for me. I'm insignificant to them.
Yes. He's talking about waking up and feeling fine, but by the time he goes to bed, he's back into depression.
That's when the demons come.
He's doing his best to not fall into depression, possibly some other bad thing that we don't even know about. Part of this sounds like he's scared to fall asleep. I could never tell exactly why that was. So I'll stay awake because the dark's not taking prisoners tonight. Why am I not scared in the morning? I don't hear those voices calling. I must have kicked them out. I swear I heard demons yelling. He's scared to fall asleep because he has nightmares. I think it might be possible he's being haunted by some sort of Freddy Krueger or even Freddy Kruegers.
He's Freddy Kruegers.
Yes, Freddy Krueger.
In that instance, Tim, are they all named Freddy Krueger?
Yes. Well, they're all named Freddy. I don't know what their last name is.
That part seems even more weird. In this song, they make a bizarre musical switch from rap to ELO.
Yes.
Literally Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah, and the chorus is quite catchy, I found.
You wager he is dealing with a Freddy Krueger or a band of Freddys. What do they call that? Glottal. I believe it's a glottal of Freddys.
Yes.
I think we might be dealing with something different. He is clearly scared of the night, but he does talk about hearing voices and being pulled by demons. I think we might be, and I don't know what makes me think this, but I think we are dealing with a grown man who still has an imaginary friend.
I have that later in this album.
Are you joking?
No, I'm not. I think it makes complete sense. A lot of these songs, they sound like he's talking to God, but the way in which he addresses that situation sounds like he's talking to some sort of nightmare bunny that has taken care of him since childhood. Some sort of Hobbes, if you will.
Exactly. And I think, Tim, everybody is probably very aware of this. If you keep your imaginary friend past, 7, 8, they continue to age as you continue to age. And so whatever age they are, they will continue to go year by year. And if you do not get rid of your imaginary friend by the time you reach adulthood, it's very difficult to decouple that relationship and figure out where you end and the imaginary friend begins simultaneously. And I don't want to cast aspersions. I'm not here to say who is and isn't evil, but it's pretty clear that most imaginary friends do in fact become evil in their later years.
Well, they start drinking, Garrett.
That's exactly right. I thought I don't want to get into my personal life, but that's what I've heard.
Your imaginary friend, it's already several years older than you, and so it starts hitting that bottle 4 to 5 years before it's appropriate for you to be hanging around it drunk.
So, Tim, because this is probably going to be a running theme throughout the episode, we got to give him a name, and we've got to paint the picture. What does this imaginary friend look like? I have something in my head, but I love when you contribute. Is there a name you like, and then I'll tell you mine?
Jonathan, I think, is probably his first name.
Okay, I went with Oliver.
Oh, I like Oliver. I think in either scenario, though, he refuses to tell you his last name.
Well, I don't know that imaginary friends have them.
Oh, they all
only
do.
If you give them one. All right, what are you picturing Oliver or Jonathan to look like?
I picture him to be, now that you've given him the name Oliver, sort of an Oliver Twist character, a little bit see-through, like you can kind of tell maybe he's not, maybe some sort of apparition.
Like a Force ghost?
Yeah, sort of. Obviously wearing a cowboy hat and chaps.
What?
I mean, why wouldn't he be?
He's not your imaginary friend.
Oh, then I have no idea.
Well, you've listened to the album. What do you know what Oliver or Jonathan or possibly Jolliver? I'm liking Jolliver.
Yeah, it's a good name. This guy's imaginary friend is a beast, Garrett. The way he describes his imaginary friend, or again, possibly God, is terrifying.
Yeah, he is. This is why I had to ask first, because you took it a completely different way. Based on what you said, Tim, I can only imagine that this man's imaginary friend looks identical to him, just 5 to 12 years older, which would just be horrifying.
I have an argument for both of us hating this album.
Okay.
The line, metaphorically, I'm a whore.
Why is that?
It's, Garrett, I can't believe you're not outraged, frankly.
I don't understand. Oh, my goodness. Are you talking about the shaming of sex workers by referring to them as a whore?
Yes, absolutely I am. First of all, you should not shame sex workers. If you want to be a prostitute, a lady of the evening even, or a man.
Yeah, if you want to have a completely normal, lucrative job and for some odd reason disappear for multiple hours an evening, only to be turning tricks on a nearby Whataburger where a good friend or roommate could easily spot you, you can do that.
Yeah. The other issue I have is if you say metaphorically, it's not a metaphor anymore.
Yes, that is true. Maybe he means that he is a whore with his metaphors.
Maybe, but I don't think so.
Track number 2, Holding On to You.
Ty Joe really brings his Christian emo Eminem to this song.
Yeah, he is happy to be back in control. He sings, I'm taking over my body, back in control, no more shoddy. He is once again for the evening given over control to Jolliver.
Absolutely.
Which, Tim, I apologize, what is Jolliver? To me, he was a wise bear for your friend, what's his name, Tyler? Tojo?
Ty Joe.
Right. As a boy, but now he's aged Tim into a surly, alcoholic, hairless bear.
Oh, God.
It forces him to do terrible things for his own amusement, and he has emphysema. Did I mention that? He's an old, hairless bear with emphysema. Once again, folks, do not Google hairless bear. How do you feel about that? You pictured a human, I pictured an old bear.
I mean, yours is far more terrifying, at least initially.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might come to love that bear eventually when you got to know him, but...
Not unless it gets some sort of all-over merkin. You know what? There's another business idea.
Bear merkins?
Yeah, because they're embarrassed. They know what they look like. They're looking in lakes while they're looking for salmon.
He is, as I mentioned, happy to be back in control, turning over the reins, no longer riding shotgun and witnessing the terrible things that Jolliver does with his body. That's what we'd like it to be about, but that's not what it's about, is it, Tim?
I would like to believe so, but no.
For me, it all comes down to contemplating suicide and self-harm.
Yeah, he's got the lines, time is slowing, and it's frozen still, and the windowsill looks really nice, right?
Why do so many of our songs deal with either suicide or, if you keep going, terrifically racist metaphors? Let me pick up where you left off. You think twice about your life. It probably happens at night, right? Fight it, take the pain, ignite it. Tie a noose around your mind, loose enough to breathe fine, and tie it to a tree. Tell it, you belong to me. This ain't a noose, this is a leash, and I have news for you. You must obey me. That hits the trifecta. Racist, suicide, and I think that was at least daddy play adjacent.
I thought Toby Keith might approve.
Is this atheism rap or possibly agnostic rap?
I don't think so.
Well, okay, let me lay some lyrics down on you. Is it time to move our feet to an introspective beat? It ain't the speakers that bump hearts, it's our hearts that make the beat.
I see what you're saying. There's no outside force that's giving you the beat. You're doing it on
march
your own?
to your own beat, you look inside yourself and do what feels right. He screams, entertain my faith 10 times in my face.
So I was going to bring that up. This is the only part in the album that really does echo something that I have been saying to you for years. Garrett, entertain my faith.
I can't.
Seriously, let him into your heart. Jesus Christ, obviously. Let Jesus Christ into your heart, Garrett. He will save you.
You're telling me to let Jolliver into my heart.
Oh no, you keep that horrifying shaved bear out of there. Well, no, he's not shaved. He is naturally hairless. His hair spontaneously fell out. You don't usually ride in my car, but about a month ago, large sections of the paint of my car just fell off. And I'm not saying that it was you, but it seems like you.
Track number 3, Migraine.
Garrett? Garrett?
Yes.
Does this start off with a vocoder?
You're goddamn right it does. I love it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, what are the odds, right?
First of all, it's another Eminem ripoff.
But to a jaunty beat.
The first verse, thank God it's Friday, because Fridays will always be better than Sundays, because Sundays are my suicide days.
Yikes, Tim. Sign of the times, we've gone from manic Mondays to suicide Sundays.
That's right. I can read to you a little bit of genius scholar insight here.
Oh, great.
It's no secret that Ty Joe is a Christian and regular churchgoer, so this lyric brings up some interesting questions regarding his faith. Christians go to church in an effort to learn more about their God and essentially kill the sinful parts of themselves to more effectively serve their Lord.
I don't think that's what's happening at church.
I don't think that's what's happening in this song.
Oh, yeah, good point, Tim. Let's talk about what is happening in this song. He's waging a war, Tim. He is waging a war behind his face and above his throat. Now, why wouldn't you just say brain? Because that's not what he said. He said, am I the only one I know waging my wars behind my face and above my throat? Shadows will scream that I'm alone, but I know we've made it this far, kid. And I want to focus first. Well, let's start with the obvious. Behind my face and above my throat. Did you know immediately, or did you have to think about it?
He might be talking about his nasopharynx.
Absolutely. I battled mine for years.
And you're right, too. I've battled your nasopharynx for at least years.
Racist son of a bitch. But let's talk about the last line, Tim. But I know we've made it this far, kid. Who's he talking to?
Presumably his much older imaginary friend who also looks like a child still. Or a bear.
Or an aged hairless bear with dialysis. He has to constantly roll a dialysis.
That's horrible. Just,
so
he is incontinent. None of this is going to go well. He is.
Oh, that bear's wearing a diaper. You better believe it.
He's going to make a mess on your carpet. Just make your peace with that up front.
Yeah, listeners, draw us a photo of Jolliver.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
I'm going to put it above Tim's bed while he's sleeping.
Oh, God.
Have you ever given yourself a pep talk when it was not a situation that could end in your death?
I mean, I would extend it to severe injury, but in those situations, sure. Instead of pep talks, I like to save my introspective conversation in those moments for talks with the Lord.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I like to say a quick prayer instead of a pep talk. I feel like it almost certainly makes more of a difference.
I hate you. I think you're joking. I've caught you praying before.
Well, sure. I mean, I try to have a pre-show prayer every time. You do not like holding my hand, but that is how we pray, Garrett. That is how we pray. I mean, this song is, at least in part, about suicide. I do not have writer's block. My writer just hates the clock. It will not let me sleep. I guess I'll sleep when I'm dead. And sometimes death seems better than the migraine in my head.
Tim, you're missing the most fun lines in the whole song. My mind shipwrecked, this is the only land my mind could find, full of tidal waves, suicidal, crazed lions. They're trying to eat me, blood running down their chin, and I know that I can fight or I can let the lion win. I begin to assemble what weapons I can find, because sometimes to stay alive, you gotta kill your mind. What is he talking about?
I don't...
He is battling mind lions, and the most effective way to kill the lions in your brain is to do drugs, I think. And if that's what he is saying, I agree. If you are fighting mind lions, the best defense is a good offense, and by that I mean lysergic acid.
I've always just enjoyed drowning them in alcohol.
Take that, brain.
Tamp those thoughts down, man.
Also, if you are dealing with somebody with, mental disorder, LSD is probably, the last thing to give them.
It's not ideal, no.
The song cuts off abruptly, as though he did not, in fact, make it.
Yes.
I assume that's what we are to assume. We're 3 songs in, and at least 2 of the 3 songs, despite being quite happy, are just about being depressed. Or what you and I said, your guy hanging out with his boy and mine with the hairless bear.
I think you can say all 3 songs are about being depressed. 2 directly mention suicide. All 3 clearly have the boy and his bear.
If you want to make an album entirely about death, go ahead, but don't do it like this.
Track number 4, House of Gold. This is what I thought the entire album was going to sound like.
This is the last thing on the planet I thought this album was going to sound like. So this song is pretty folky.
Yep.
It's not terrible unless you listen to the words.
Sure. Musically, this really reminded me of Blitzen Trapper.
Boy, I don't know Blitzen Trapper as well as you. Unfortunately, the song seems to be an ode to mommy, which is so creepy. He sings, I will make you queen of everything you see. I'll put you on the map. I'll cure you of disease. We'll make pretend that you and me lived ever after happily. Can this be about God, Tim, and not his mom, please?
It could be, but it's not. This song is weird. And since we know that dreams are dead and life turns plans up on their head, I will plan to be a bum, so I just might become someone.
Once again, super cheery song, and then it goes to this bizarre nihilistic stuff about how dreams are dead. It's the Homer Simpson approach.
Yes.
Aim so low you can never possibly fail.
Track number 5, Car Radio.
Pull the steering wheel. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot with what I once bought.
Sounds a little like Garrett Harvey high school poetry to me.
Yeah, a little spoken word intro turns rappy.
I ponder of something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's desire, my time today.
I definitely hate this song. I can say that unequivocally.
Right on the surface, the song is about somebody stealing his car radio, and of course, what does that make him want to do?
Suicide.
That's right. Everything makes him want to suicide.
The lyrics here are, I hate this car that I'm driving. There's no hiding from me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There's no distraction to mask what is real. I could pull the steering wheel, which I assume means he's gonna pull it into oncoming traffic.
Or off a cliff.
I mean, I get it. I too hate being alone with my thoughts, and there's a lot of screaming echoing through my head when I'm alone. American Pie is always playing. I haven't been able to get that song out of my head since 1993. There's Cowboys. Then I start thinking about what I should have said whenever you and I got into that argument July 4th, 2009. I could have won that argument if I had a slightly different tactic. I was right, but you argued better. And why the fuck did that girl break up with me 14 years ago? There's some more Cowboys, but for the love of God, man, get an iPod or headphones or something. Don't drive into oncoming traffic. Don't drive off a cliff to silence the voices. And definitely don't write a terrible song repeating, and now I just sit in silence 11 plus times. Or drink. Yep. Just drink.
I'm glad you were brave enough, Tim, to break it down the way you did. Tim and I are not coming over here on our high horses, mine metaphorical, Tim's at times literal. You think we don't suffer from mental illness? You people have listened to 60 hours of this. You tell us.
Yeah. It's all-consuming.
There are ways to deal with it. Don't kill yourself because you don't have a radio. Find a radio. There's got to be a radio.
Yeah. Or drink.
Right. Exactly. Just bury all those feelings in alcohol. But don't drive. Get an Uber. I want to ask you, Tim, if you catch the logic in here. He sings, faith is to be awake. And to be awake is for us to think. And for us to think is to be alive. And I will try with every rhyme to come across like I am dying to let you know you need to try to think. I think he equates first, faith is to be awake, and to be awake is for us to think. Okay, so faith is to think. And for us to think is to be alive. So faith is for us to be alive. And I will try with every rhyme to come across like I am dying to let you know you need to try to think or have faith. He's telling you to find Jesus.
Yes, but I mean, he's not telling me to because, of course, I already have. We just want you to join us.
What if it's a fake Jesus like that Big and Rich song?
Entertain my faith, Garrett.
I can't know for certain that your God is the one true God.
Okay, so what you're saying is it was not Jesus that was talking to him. He mistook a mangy, hairless bear with psoriasis, a diaper, currently undergoing dialysis while screaming in pain.
No, he's not screaming. He's a stoic old, well, he's surly and racist. He's old.
None of these things describe the Jesus I know.
No, I'm talking about a bear.
Well, no, I know, I understand, but he has mistaken your or his childhood imaginary friend for Jesus.
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. It's one or the other. Either it's that terrifying bear monster or
Jesus.
It's Jesus. Right. There's a... You son of a bitch. There's a giant electronic beats breakdown in the middle of this, like some sort of Madonna Ray of Light, or for you older listeners, a BT song.
Okay.
You like the BT, Tim?
I don't know.
Yeah, you weren't living in the US of A then. Of course, since this is also about dealing with depression, I assume he doesn't have the radio to distract him from what Jolliver wants him to do. And so normally he's got, he can put on some music, and while Jolliver's just suggesting he do all manner of horrible things that we'll get into in later songs, he can at least focus on the music and he's not compelled to do those interesting and bad things. But now it's silent. It's silent, sure, but you can't silence an imaginary friend, Tim.
Yeah, and the more times you listen, the stronger they grow.
And if you have one past the age of 21, technically they don't ever have to go. And you're responsible for anything they break.
Or upkeep, if they make a mess on the rug, that's on you. And if your thing is some sort of aged bear, better believe that's going to be a borderline full-time job.
Track number 6, Semi-Automatic.
We have here another song that appears to be about being scared of the night and shadows and maybe being scared to fall asleep.
He's terrified of the night and what it brings. Now, does it bring a glottal of Freddy's? Does it bring a small boy who is secretly an older imaginary friend? Does it bring an aged hairless bear? In any event, it brings horror and mystery.
And all of those things are just really drunk.
Oh, absolutely. And this is all set to a really fun disco beat.
The line, "The horrors of the night melt away. Under the warm glow of survival of the day, I will be saved for one whole day until the sun makes the hills its grave." Is it possible that his town is just plagued by vampires?
It seems like an odd time in the album to introduce vampires.
Well,
but
no, it might be the whole thing.
independently-
That might be why he's always so scared of the dark.
Oh boy, we might have backdoored our way into a total apocalypse situation, Tim, but one unlike any we've seen to date is just a single person. There's a reason this man has held on to his imaginary friend. He has survived. He is the last man standing in a world of vampires. It's him and Jolliver against the vampire horde.
That could very well be.
We have a real psycho on our hands. I'm never what I like. I'm double-sided, and I just can't hide. I kind of like it when I make you cry. Because I'm twisted up. I'm twisted up inside. What's great is that the real reading of that is so jaunty. Jaunty's the right word. It's so upbeat, so high tempo. It's, I'm twisted up. Instead, we read it as though it's a man fighting demons or a hairless bear, which either way, he's up to no good. In fact, I don't know, Tim. It seems like he's trying to decide, does he like this life? He says, I'm semi-automatic. My prayers are schizophrenic. So I'm thinking maybe it's at times he's wishing it would stop, and at other times he's praying for the night to come and another round of hunting, either the vampire horde, as you mentioned, or potentially whatever it is Jolliver's up to, which I think is very untoward and probably not relegated entirely to the bear community. Can you be charged for an accessory to bear rape?
No. Yes.
That's good.
If you brought the
animal
bear.
husbandry, right? Oh,
Like
no,
if you
I think
bring
that's
a bear to a party and then it gets up to something, yeah, that's your fault.
That's not what... No, it's... Wow.
Because, I mean, it's not the bear's fault. He's a bear. He's just bearing around.
Such an odd example. Why would you bring a bear to a party? I'm talking about
Going to a party. I'm not going to leave that bear alone in my house. Let me give you a little genius annotation. The lines, I'm semi-automatic, my prayers schizophrenic. What Tyler means by semi-automatic is that he controls his actions, but his emotions control the rest of him, so he doesn't control his mind. Schizophrenia can often mean someone tries to talk to somebody who isn't really there. He fears God isn't there and that we are all schizophrenic. The author of that annotation might be schizophrenic.
I'll go so far as to say diagnosed.
Track number 7, Scream.
I'm seeing everything in slow-mo. Look out below, crashing down to the ground, just like a vertigo loco.
Do we have a confirmed ukulele?
May I read to you Ty Joe's explanation of this song? I wrote this one on the ukulele. I wanted people to sing with me. These songs were written without any pressure, without any goal really.
Great. I get sort of the impression he's attempting to hit on a girl, and he's doing a very poor job, but the internet once again would have you believe that he's saying all of this to his God.
What we really need to do is an album by a Moloch worshiper.
That's very specific, Tim.
You're telling me that not one musician thought maybe Moloch would rocket me to the top of that Billboard 200, maybe even to the top of that Dutch mega charts. You're saying not one musician has ever come up with the idea of worshiping Moloch and writing an album about it. We're going to find that one.
Tim, there is no album centered around an owl god.
In 2010, there was a band called Moloch that released an album called Moloch.
Coincidence.
Well, it has a song on it called Dance Cheney Dance. And we know...
God damn you and your Bohemian Grove shit. I don't have time for this. Back to the song.
The only other thing we should say on this song, and it will come into the next one, so I want to mention that it is in this one. Musically, in the background, there are record scratches hidden low in the mix. They tried to sneak it past us, and I'm not letting them.
Yeah.
Track number 8, The Run and Go.
This could be a Ben Folds song.
It sounds like Ben Folds. The vocals even kind of sound like it. The music reminded me of it's generic piano rock, but it also kind of has a Noah and the Whale thing to it.
Yeah. There isn't a lot of ways to take the following lines. I can't take them on my own. Pa, I'm not the one you know. I have killed a man, and all I know is I am on the run and go. He has killed a man. He is telling his pa he is out of there. We don't know if he's done this. We don't know if Jolliver has convinced him to do this. It's unclear. What we do know is that he's not sticking around, and he's telling his pa he's out of here. Now, what could be an interesting twist, though, is if Jolliver is also called Pa. Because this man's alone. He's living in a wasteland filled with vampires.
Perhaps he has killed his one actual companion, and so now all he has is his pa.
Boy, that is interesting.
And now he has no one to watch his back, so he's on the run from said vampires.
Tim, you and I are the last two men on Earth. We are constantly hunting and successfully making some progress towards beating down the vampire horde that roams the earth.
I was so worried you were going to say we are trying and making some progress toward repopulating the earth.
My question to you, there are two women in Australia. We're in Austin, they're going to stay put, and we're going to come to them to repopulate the earth.
So we're repopulating the earth in Australia. I like where you're like, what's happening here?
Would we be able to avoid killing each other long enough to get there, either on purpose or on accident?
I think our one possible avenue to survival is if we were recording podcasts about bad albums on the way as some sort of present for these women whenever we got there. Something to break the ice with. Be like, hey, so while, it took us about a year. We recorded good 60 to 70 hours worth of nonsense. We would like you to listen to it. We'll wait. And then we'd like some feedback.
And sex.
Yeah, feedback first, though.
Well, yeah. I was going to say if we each had our own set of headphones, that would be okay. So we could just, I assume, row. I would probably learn how to fly. How would you want to get there? The safest way is probably by boat.
Definitely not rowboat. I don't know why that was ever on the table, you psychopath.
I don't know. Get in shape for the ladies?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. If we're going to record podcasts on our long ship voyage to Australia, we'd have to do Why I Hate This Apocalypse.
Well, yeah.
And albums. We're going to have a lot of free time. There's a lot of whistling in this song about a man killing another man and then facing accusations.
Garrett, the internet believes this to just be a simple song about prayer. These are all metaphors.
I mean, he said he killed a guy and he's on the run. And we know about Jolliver. It's 100% about a grown man on the run with his old imaginary friend.
That may look young and may look like a bear with no hair.
And a diaper with a dialysis machine and a skin disorder.
God damn it. You done?
Leaky eye.
Track number 9, Fake You Out.
Sort of 8-bit sounding music to open.
Absolutely, with a background of record scratches.
I think there's a full-on record scratch breakdown at some point.
Hoedown, I think they call it.
There's a lot of musical transitions on here. So we open with a vaguely electronic 8-bit sounding vocal. Could be maybe a Sonic 2 or Excite Bike. And it's about driving away and failing to live up to expectations.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the run with Jolliver, as we mentioned. He's scared of what he's becoming. And the internet says that he's singing to God once again. He sings, I'll never be what you see inside. You say I'm not alone, but I am petrified. Now, sure, that could be God if we hadn't heard all that other stuff. That's clearly Jolliver. Jolliver sees the evil inside him.
Frankly, he's fostering it.
He's stoking that fire, Tim. Think about it. If you were a surly old bear that wanted nothing more than to have sex with other bears and commit murders.
I'm sorry, what?
Wait, what are you talking about?
That bear is in no condition for sexual activity.
I mean, just because he looks horrible doesn't mean he doesn't have urges.
You know what? That's what I love about you. You are accepting of others.
Everyone has their right to intercourse, and I have the right to not watch certain people do it.
Let's not say everyone has the right to their intercourse. That makes you sound very incel-y.
What do you mean?
Everyone does not have the right to intercourse. You have to get the other person to agree. You don't just have a right to it. You monster.
That's not what I mean. Everyone has the right to have consensual intercourse. Is that better?
Much.
And regardless of looks.
Right. You're saying you see everyone as a sexual being.
Not everyone, no. No one in my family is a sexual being.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a small caveat.
Minus that, yes, I view all adults as sexual beings. Some of them disgust me.
All fair game for Garrett.
No, not what I mean.
Of course, we can't end this song without talk of suicide again. He says in the bridge, "And the wrists of my mind have the bleeding lines. They remind me of all the times I have committed dirty crimes." And then later, "And believe me, that's what all the kids are doing. They're killing themselves."
Things I didn't see coming. A background of someone just going, hey, 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 hey.
That could drive you insane.
So many hays. And then the record scratch breakdown, followed by a rap.
Oh, of course.
It's all over the place.
80% of these songs have a rap in them at some point.
And this is, in reality, likely about self-harm and depression. But since that's a huge bummer, let's assume he is coming to grips with what he has done in that silent car from earlier as he listens to Jolliver convince him to his ways. And that brings us to track number 10, Guns for Hands.
A song that, you guessed it, about self-harm.
Opens like a Tiffany song, but don't worry, it is about death. He sings, "I know what you think in the morning when the sun shines on the ground and shows what you have done. It shows where your mind has gone, and you swear to your parents that it will never happen again." Tim, Jolliver was always evil. This is him as a child remembering the bad thing he did to that cat.
Yes. I mean, it's probably about, like, cutting himself, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
Could be mutilating cats. You can never take that off the table if a Jolliver's involved.
Right, but since we're not a show that's going to literally sit here and try to make fun of somebody for being depressed and hurting themselves, we're going to go the Jolliver route. But let's get back to Guns for Hands.
It has an almost reggae thing to it.
No, almost, sir. It goes full reggae. Well, it's white guy jam band reggae.
Yeah.
That is to say, underwhelming. If anybody's wondering, do they actually address this whole Guns for Hands thing in the song? They do. You all have guns, and you never put the safety on, and you all have plans, and you all have hands. Guns for hands.
Yep, we've turned our hands to guns, traded our thumbs for ammunition.
See, it falls apart a little bit there. Is he putting the thumbs in the hands?
Right, Garrett, he's not good at metaphors. He's just enthusiastic about metaphors.
He's a real whore for him. He's a metaphor whore.
He is a metaphor whore. Metaphor.
So you have one bullet each?
But that's all you need, Garrett, because this is about self-harm, not harming others.
Yes. I mean, you learned about the danger of thumbs at a young age.
Oh, do not bring up the thumb man, Garrett. I don't... Jesus Christ. I will not talk about thumb abuse on this show. That is not what our show is about. I have a separate podcast, Thumbs and More, in which I go into all manner of detail of the horrible history of the human thumb and my horrible history with thumbs.
Surviving thumbs.
It's a whole course, Garrett. We don't need to talk about it. It's
a course.
It is
There's
a course.
curriculum.
Yes, yeah.
It's not leisure listening.
I mean, it's informative. It educates you on thumbs and the dangers inherent to thumbs.
Infotainment.
Exactly. But I had to go to numerous courses to get over my thumb-related issues and phobias.
I do not believe you. I did sort of envision the worst Twilight Zone episode ever, where a man lands on a planet and everybody has guns for hands, and so he can't sleep well and he's just walking around trying to act like everything's normal, but everybody has gun hands.
I kind of like it. They're trying to pick something up awkwardly, balancing a bar glass between their... I mean, they don't function as hands anymore. They're
just blasting themselves in the face. Even though they've had gun hands their whole life, they're still... I mean, that's the nasty secret, Tim. They don't let you know on the TV and that guns just go off. Don't touch guns. Unless you know what you're doing, a gun will just go off. I can't even imagine just trying to zip a zipper with gun hands.
Oh, yeah. Shoot yourself right in that dick. Or vagina.
Yeah. Or just femoral artery.
That's not where you want to be shot. Track number 11, Trees. This song sounds like Frey church worship music to me.
Yes, it sounds that way. I got so hung up in the words in here that that's all I want to talk about. But yes, you are right. I know where you stand. Silent in the trees. And that's where I am. Silent in the trees. I can feel your breath. I can feel my death. I want you to know. I want you to see. I want you to say, in the trees. This man is straight up watching people from trees.
And maybe breathing on them a little.
He can feel their breath, and he can feel his death. Tim, Jolliver I mean, bears can climb trees. If you are fleeing a bear, do not run up a tree. He will chase you. And then, you know what happens then, Tim?
Eat you in the tree?
That's right. You get eaten in a tree.
I'm not 100% sure that a bear on dialysis can climb a tree, but I wouldn't test it. Better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. A properly motivated bear, no matter how drunk or sick,
it will drag those machines. Those machines are...
They weigh nothing to him, and you are a delicious snack. Jolliver has taken this young boy, Tyler, up into trees to begin spying on people, manipulating them, trying to compel them to love them or come to them. Could be a real Little Shop of Horrors situation. Maybe Tyler's bringing people to the tree where Jolliver awaits. Yeah, to your point, Tim, he can do it once in a while, but he is an older bear with presumably a pretty heavy cough.
He is an older bear.
Yeah. So going up and down the tree a couple times a week at least isn't going to work out. So yeah, he lures him up there and Jolliver eats him. You know what instrument I really missed by the 11th song?
Guitar?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I like guitars. I like them. They don't have to be in every song and they don't have to be a part of every album. But in this album by track 11, I really wanted one. Track number 12, Truce.
7 lines for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, an excellent way to round out this album. The morning has come. I will fear the night again. I hope I'm not my only friend. So there he's saying he's hoping he's not stuck with Jolliver, and he will fear the next night where Jolliver descends upon him to do his bidding. Do you think he's there all day as well, or is he sleeping it off?
I mean, he is there, but he's
just on the internet, like half asleep.
I'm sure he dozes off, but he kind of wakes up whenever you move and comes along with you.
It makes you keep whatever it is he wants to watch my programs.
Yeah.
Change my programs. And then he's got fucking some cam girl up on your computer and he's not using private browsing because he doesn't know what that is, but somehow he figured out how to talk to a Yugoslavian girl who's willing to put God knows what, God knows where for $4 a minute.
And again, not slut shaming. That's fine.
Absolutely not.
But use private browser. We are here to recommend the use of private browser, be it in Google Chrome, you've got your Opera, your anything. Don't use Internet Explorer. That's garbage. But the rest of them.
Even Firefox. And if you can afford it, a proper VPN isn't the worst idea ever. There's no reason you should have to give everyone your personal information just because you want to use the internet. But hey, that's just us. Back to Truce.
Can't get to the dark web without it.
Let's not get into the dark web, shall we? There isn't much to say about this. Once again, the last song is a giant bummer because he is begging the listener to please stay alive and not end it all, which, hey, I concur. Do stay alive. Don't end it all. We want you to subscribe, rate, review. Go to hatepod.com. Point is, stay alive, but not because of Truce. I got nothing else to say about this.
There's not much here. We can close this out with a couple of genius comments. So I have 2 here. I'm not crying, you're crying. But who am I kidding? It's 21 Pilots. We're all crying. Are we though?
What?
21 Pilots songs give me what I would call a high. I've tried suicide before. Now that I hear this song, it's like, what the hell was I thinking? 'Cause you're right. Life goes on. Not everyone in the world is hateful. When I listen to this song, I lay down and take a deep breath and let the tears roll out. And I love the feeling of release.
Okay, feel free to cry. As we mentioned, you can't help it.
Oh, I love the feeling of release, Garrett.
Oh, did you write that? Did you write that in our bathroom? I've noticed graffiti has begun to plague our bathroom. And given that while we do share a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment and have chosen to have equal couch beds in the living room to foster a creative spirit for the show, I have noticed the bathroom that you almost exclusively use, almost I say, plagued with graffiti.
Stay out of my bathroom. What goes on in there is none of your concern.
You know what? Sage advice. I apologize for intruding. Tim, how did this thing do?
This sold slowly, but it sold insanely well. It never made it above number 21 on the Billboard 200, although it did get to number 1 on something called the Billboard Catalog Album Chart. I don't know what that is. Number 53 on the Dutch Mega Charts, and number 60 on the Swedish Sverigetoplisten.
I do respect Sverigetoplisten.
That's right, you do. It did eventually make it to double platinum in the US. It was the 109th best-selling album in 2015, 2 years after it was released. It was the 38th best-selling album of 2016 and the 74th best-selling album of 2017. So this is a very slow burn, but it It's a huge hit. It has never in a week not sold at least 1,000 copies in the US, I believe. So every week, at least 1,000 people buy this album. The singles for this in the US, Car Radio sold over 2 million copies. Holding On to You sold over 1 million copies. House of Gold, over 1 million copies. Guns for Hands sold over 500,000 copies. And Fake You Out sold over 500,000 copies.
That's astounding. That brings me to an important question, Tim. What did people think of it?
There were 857 Amazon reviews, 4.7 out of 5 star on average, 88% 5 star, 2% 1 star. Now, every single one of the 1 star reviews was about how the vinyl was warped or the package arrived smashed or something like that. So there was not a single 1 star review about the music itself, which is shocking.
That's very surprising.
I agree. You'd think that one person would hate it, right?
I think at least one might.
I have a few brief selections from reviews. 21 Pilots still is one of my favorite bands, and I'm 62. I'm 39 years old and was introduced to this band by my 14-year-old niece. My son got me hooked on this band, and I am totally addicted. I am a 50-year-old woman and absolutely adore these guys. The music is like none that I have ever heard, and I am old. I'm a mom of a teen in my early 40s, but I love 21 Pilots. FYI, I am nearly 40, and I listen to mostly classic rock and heavy metal, but these guys are very talented, and their music is unique and addictive. And then my favorite, doesn't have an age on this one, but this is from Grammy. I liked that I didn't have to listen to it, but my granddaughter loved it. Just a delightful lady.
Wow, so what's going on here?
I don't know. I think that people feel guilty for liking this, possibly.
I think these are all people with no personality traits.
You have floated this theory that they're the most interesting thing about them is that they didn't die in the first 51 years of their life.
Yeah, it is the equivalent of how's the weather about your personality. It's just, name something unique about you. I'm 60.
It's not unique at all, but sure.
Right.
And then I have a couple of actual reviews. One by A. Bhatia called Epic. Okay, so I don't write many reviews about anything, but after one listen, there was never a doubt that I was going to do one for Vessel. The influences throughout the album are palpable, honest, and striking. It is the stuff these kids have grown up with, that we have all grown up with, and across all genres. I hear shades of Freddie Mercury, Elton John, Eminem, Ziggy Marley, David Gilmour, Trent Reznor, Green Day, and more. That is quite a roster, yet it is all amalgamated in a style that is unprecedentedly unique. The writing is intense, purposeful, and intentionally somber, yet presented in a way you would not expect, with a slap in the face to any kind of genre categorization. So yep.
Hold on, before you finish, I completely agree with all the words that you've just said so far. Continue.
So yep, the word epic could just about sum it up. 5 out of 5 stars.
2 out of 5 stars.
5 out of 5.
2 out of 5 stars.
5 out of 5.
You're misreading it. It's got to be 2 out of 5 stars.
Absolutely not. So I agree. I hear a lot of those things as well. And I mean, we've mentioned several of those as well. The problem is, if you combine all those things, what happens isn't good. One more for you. This is by Nazeli called Amazing. Such an amazing record. It's rare that I can listen to a whole LP from beginning to end without ever jumping around, but I loved every single song on Vessel. It's like Forrest's mama said, it's like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get. And I love that about 21 Pilots. So many different genres and music mixed so well together, and Tyler is one hell of an introspective lyricist for such a young man. So much energy packed into one record. I have at least 6 favorites that are on my constant iPod rotation. Thanks guys for the amazing and inspiring art. 5 out of 5 stars.
I want to thank that person for not listing those 6 songs. I don't entirely disagree with everything that person said.
There is a 2 out of 5 star review that the guy didn't like it because he thought that the person on the cover looked like Robert Fripp, and then realized that it was not a Robert Fripp album after purchasing it.
Fair enough, I guess.
This doesn't sound at all like King Crimson.
No, it doesn't, Tim. So let me ask you this. Who is this for?
Imagine Dragons fans?
Millennials. Which you are technically one of.
Yes, and you are a baby boomer, if I'm...
No, I am. I think I am technically one as well. Maybe off by a month. I don't know.
baby boomer.
Okay, you continue that theory.
Okay.
It is very evident in the music that these are kids that have been working on this for a long time. And it's like, here's everything I got. And we've touched on them. Those reviews touched on them. There are a number of influences that are very obvious for anybody who's been listening to music for the last decade. It's used to strange effect. I guess I'm really moving into final thoughts, if that's okay. I would like to say that it's going to get better, maybe, that they have the potential, but I have heard a number of songs off of not the most recent album, but the one before it, around the Suicide Squad days, and it's not better. I'm curious to do that album because I'm very conflicted on this one, Tim. What do you think?
To be clear, I did not enjoy this week at all. I probably disliked the week more than the album even called for. Musically, there are moments on this album, maybe even minute-long stretches, that I really liked.
Yep.
They are immediately broken up by nonsense that I just cannot abide. The majority of the lyrics I hate because I would hate just for the reason that the author thinks that they are super deep. I mean, this is the sort of album that if you were to like sift through the lyrics or music, and just take it in chunks and say, do you hate this or why do you hate this? I probably wouldn't have a specific answer, or at least one that didn't sound like super pedantic and needlessly picky. But this album just fucking grated on me, Garrett. And almost every moment of this album, it goes back and forth musically or lyrically. There's something wrong with it.
Something to irritate you?
Yeah, I think if you add it all up together, the sum of its parts is a bad album.
Okay, that's a fair statement. If it had been me in charge and I had stumbled onto the 21 Pilots, I would have said, you have 2 albums here. Which one do you feel more confident in? And I think it would have been less of the suicide stuff, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could have done a Beck kind of thing here where you put out that first Mellow Gold thing, you put out a Odelay, and then maybe you follow it up with something like Mutations, where it's very different in style. Because, I mean, these guys are clearly capable of competently performing in a number of different styles. I think that you need to focus it more on a certain thing and really kind of iron out the kinks of that without just randomly jumping to something else as a crutch.
I don't even know if it's a crutch. It could very well could be. It could be a style. We could be just critiquing a style that is somewhat new.
Yes, that could be, yeah.
It seems overwrought. I feel like a good producer would have said, okay, we're going to work to establish a tone for this first album. Let's rework some of this older stuff. If you've got all the somber stuff and all of the depressing stuff, and that's okay, we can make that album first too. That doesn't matter. But the point is, we're not going to try to mix the two. And I'm not confusing the depressing lyrics with the happy tone. That's not what I mean. You stylistically have a lot going on here to the point where it's confusing and very difficult to listen to end to end. The thing that bothers me the most about this album is you and I say things like, we'll read lyrics and we make fun of the lyrics, and when we laugh at, all the different ways this guy's talking about depressing shit. For me, at least, and I think this is probably the same for you, the reason we laugh is that if you or I wanted to write a song about these topics, we might have written those lines as well, but then we would have reread them and gone, well, can't say that. Guns for hands? I get what I'm trying to convey, but the point is, let's get a second draft. Let's get a third draft. Let's get a good trusted friend to read through it, maybe give you some tips or at least some honest critiquing.
Yeah.
That's mostly why we make fun of it. It's not the actual content. It's the fact that you are so in love with your own asshole that you can't smell some bullshit and just redo it, make it better, and not just rush to put something out. And if this is your best, you suck. And I still hold out hope for 21 Pilots, and I look forward to doing them again. And I'm very curious to hear, Tim, do you hate this album? Be honest.
I kind of do. And here's why. I'm not looking forward to that next 21 Pilots album. I don't want to hear from them again. I'm interested to hear it, but I think it's going to be the same, and I think I'm going to hate that one.
You would like to hear it the way we used to listen to music, where one of us would listen to something like a 21 Pilots and be like, you got to listen to this pile of garbage, and then we'll laugh about it once.
I would like to listen to it in a way where I could listen to it once, laugh about it, and then never pick it up again, not be forced to listen to it over and over and over again for a fucking week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, but according to the bylaws, that's just not how we do it anymore. And speaking of those bylaws, you owe me a slightly more specific answer. I heard the word think in there. Let's get legal. Tim, do you hate this album?
I do. Yes. Garrett, did you hate this album?
No.
Tim hated it. Garrett loved it. Garrett is a 21 pilot head. Is that what they're called?
I don't know, because I'm not one, you son of a bitch. Because of the nature of this child's voice, it sounds like a little kid is singing a lot of these songs. And because I know how long he's been working on this music, it's almost like I'm listening to like a nephew be like, this is what I've been working on. Or hell, even if I always like to think like, what if Tim brought me this album? I would be very impressed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's not impressive. Almost from start to finish, there's impressive stuff happening on here. I just don't want it. I don't think that it comes together into something that...
Well, yeah, once again, it comes back to a producer, right? Somebody who can take that and go, okay, you've got something. Yeah. Let's work on it.
I think there's 2 good EPs in this album, but they need to strip it back. There's a lot of work to get 2 good EPs out of here, but they're probably on here.
I think you're right. All right. You hated it. I just don't.
You loved it.
Definitely not what I said. So that brings us to the business end of the show. Please rate, review, subscribe. It makes a big difference. We don't ask for much, but when you do that, it gets us into the rankings, and then new people say, oh, what's this clever looking new show? And more people listen and download, and they do the same, and they tell 2 friends, and they tell 2 friends. The point is, get out there, spread the word, tell your friend, tell your dog, tell your neighbors. What I like to do is get out there, stand at a street corner, find somebody who seems very anxious when you make eye contact with them, and then just scream about the podcast in their face. They will not forget every word of it. Write in if you have an interesting way that we could promote the show, like my suggestion, write in. You can go to our website, hatepod.com, which has every episode ever, for every format ever, and you can also hit contact us in the upper left-hand corner and write to us and tell us your idea for spreading the word for the show, and be as creative as possible. And if it ends with screaming in a stranger's face, that's pretty fun too. But it doesn't have to. It could be a dog's face or a pig's face.
Don't scream in dogs' faces. Scream in those other things' faces.
Yeah,
people.
But if you're telling them about the show, you can whisper it in a dog's face. You can also go to facebook.com/hatepod. Reach out to us there. You can go to hatePodMail@gmail.com. You can email us there and write in. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, funny stories about the albums that we have done, memories that you have about strange things you've done with your friends, or even stranger arguments. We've put a lot of theories out on this show. If you agree, disagree, have your own, or a contribution that might clarify what's going on with Jolliver, we'd like to hear about it. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at AlbumHatePod or on Instagram at HatePod. Finally, we're also on YouTube. You got to search for us because our URL's all jacked. But just search for Why I Hate This Album, YouTube. Every episode's right there too. So maybe you're at work, you just got a tab open, listen to the show. It's a good way to catch up on back episodes. For Why I Hate This Album, I have been one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I have been and continue to be the other, Tim Richardson.
The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.